I got fired. These are the lessons that I've learned and what I've done since that time. Coming right up. Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Vin Ho of internationalvin.com. In this video, I'm going to talk about unpleasant corporate experience I went through about 10 years ago when I was living in Minnesota, Minneapolis and St. Paul in the Twin Cities. So in 2012, I moved back from Florida to my home state of Minnesota, and I was job hunting and I was trying to get into the workforce. And so I'd go to networking events and met someone that I eventually got a job with, a startup, and they were importing products from Vietnam. So that was my first job when I got back to Minnesota, and I worked there for about a year. And then while I was there, I was also taking classes from St. Paul College in import export supply chain and being a customs broker. So I was learning all of those aspects. And finally, I got into a bigger company, and it's about 500 people to 800 people, and they were outside of Minneapolis, and they did supply chain and distribution, and I did the trade compliance there for them. And I worked for about a year when I got a message from a recruiter that they wanted me to work for a big famous medical device company. So when I heard that, I really just was very excited that this was my break. And so I started there January of 2015. And what I didn't know is I joined a team that was quite toxic, and I didn't like the director. I don't think she was a good leader at all. She did have the education. She was a lawyer. She was a customs broker, but just from a personal aspect and from a leadership role, I didn't think she was the best person, and I didn't really work with her that well. And so months went by, and I think they didn't really know what they were doing, and they didn't really talk to me about my mission, about what they wanted me to do. They just had me look through papers and just kind of look through them, analyze them, and do kind of just tedious, menial things like that. They really didn't have a plan. And so I went through this phase of being very, I guess, depressed and frustrated because I came there with a lot of high hopes. I wanted to contribute. I have lots of, I believe, knowledge and expertise that I wanted to help with the program. I'm a hard worker, and I'd do anything to get things going and moving. But it just seemed like, again, the team didn't have a good leader, and it was quite toxic. The other coworkers were kind of keeping information to themselves. They were more about how shall I say, trying to positioning themselves in the future. They wanted this facade. They wanted to rise up and then to be the leaders. And so I felt like they were, one, didn't know what they were doing, and two, they were trying to, I guess, be leaders and trying to position themselves to take all of the glory. So fast forward about 4 or 5 months in, I was just feeling depressed and angry and frustrated. So I spoke with a coworker in a different department, and she was hearing my problems throughout the months and my complaints. And she told me I should just go to human resources and report it. And so that's what I did. I emailed human resources. I told them my story. It took a few weeks to meet with her. And I just told her what I was going through, that I just was worried. I wasn't getting any feedback. They weren't giving me any work to do, and just kind of tossed me to the side and didn't really ever utilize my skill set. And so she took in what I said. She seemed empathetic, and she said that, they definitely would watch my back and take care of me. And unfortunately, maybe I think 4 or 5 weeks after that, I got called into a meeting with my director and the human resource person. And I noticed the script had flipped. All of a sudden, they blamed me and said I didn't have the expertise, and the human resource person said that I inflated my resume, almost saying like I lied. I didn't have the experience, and that's why I wasn't doing well or functioning well in the position. And so I kind of wanted to take a moment to take things in, to make sure I was hearing what I was, what she was telling me. And I just was just kind of just startled, and I just didn't say anything because I knew something was wrong. And I could tell that the director and the two other coworkers threw me under the bus and complained about me and just made up lies, or just convinced the human resource person that I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't have the expertise for the job. So I kind of knew what was happening at that moment. And I kind of my stomach started to churn. I was uncomfortable in my chair, and I kind of bit my lip. And I just, when that happened, I knew that there's no reason to stick around anymore. When my coworkers did that to me, my director threw me under the bus and just kind of twisted the story and blamed me. And so I just kind of put a fake smile on my face and just said, "Oh, okay, that's fine. If that's how you see things, I respect your decision." And I wasn't gonna take it anymore. I didn't want to be with those types of people. I've learned that when you encounter people like that, you want to go the opposite direction. You want to stay away from them as much as possible, and you don't want to be associated with them. And then the human resource person too. I mean, if that's her attitude, that she believes these lies, well, I don't want to stick there any longer. So in spring or May of 2015, I decided that I'm done with the corporate world, and I'm going to switch over to entrepreneurship. I'm going to do things for myself. So from here on out, I'm going to use my trade compliance, my expertise, my contacts, and just do things for myself and see how far I can get. So around 2016, I came across Johnny FD and the whole drop shipping movement, this digital nomad phase of people living in Southeast Asia and building online businesses and e-commerce businesses and things like that. So that really appealed to me because it seemed like a lot of people were making a killing for themselves. And so I got on this bandwagon, and I moved to Asia in 2017. I decided to sell everything, my home, my truck, all of my belongings, with this dream of going to Asia to build up businesses on my own. So I started to do that in August of 2017. I arrived in Chiang Mai, Thailand, the northern city. And I really was just impressed with the whole area, this whole digital nomad kind of group of people making money online. A lot of them were in their 20s and 30s, traveling the world, doing SEO, doing Amazon FBA, doing drop shipping. So I really appreciate the friendship and the networking that I was able to do while I was there. And so I worked on my businesses in the next 6 months in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And I worked really hard. I had rented out a co-working space, and every day I'd be there, and I try to put in the hours, just like an office job, and I tried to make as much progress as possible. And then by 2018, I moved to Da Nang, Vietnam, and the reason I did that is because my parents came from that area before immigrating to America in 1975. So I had some contacts there, but I'd never lived there long term. So I heard about Da Nang, Vietnam. It was up and coming. A lot of digital nomads were moving there, and I felt that would be a great place to be based. And so I did that for another year, continuing to work on my businesses. And then I felt like maybe after a year, Da Nang wasn't the best place for me. It was a little bit small and limited, not much of a nightlife. And so I decided in 2019 to move to Ho Chi Minh City, a big bustling city of international business, foreign expats. It's on a larger level, and I really appreciated living in Ho Chi Minh City. But shortly after I moved there, I started to get into debt. I didn't know why. Maybe I wasn't keeping track of my finances. I came with 50,000 US dollars in the bank. And so I figured I had enough money. I was also running an Amazon FBA business that was bringing in about $1,000 in profit every month. So I figured I'd be okay with the low cost of living. I could just build my businesses. But for some reason, there was lots of expenses being built in my warehouse that I was renting out here in the U.S. And then there were a lot of fees and shipping charges that maybe I wasn't paying attention to. So by maybe summer of 2019, I started to get into debt and things didn't look too good. So I had to scramble and to sell my Amazon FBA business to cover my expenses. So by December of 2019, I was able to do that. I exited a business, and all of the money that I made in profit, I had to just pay off my debt. And so I did that, and then I didn't know what else I was going to do. But then, luckily, someone reached out to me from a Chinese manufacturing and export company based in Shanghai to start their Vietnam office. And so, by the grace of God, this fell in my hands, and the vice president flew from Shanghai to meet me in Ho Chi Minh City and talk to me about the position. So, of course, I took it right away. And so that started the procurement chapter in my life. So what I do is I would travel to all of these manufacturing companies in Ho Chi Minh City, across the country, in the north. And about once a week, I'd be traveling on a plane to visit these factories to see if they could produce some of our products that were made in China. I was trying to see if they could make the similar products that we were making in China for export to the United States, North America, and our European customers. So that was a great position and great job until COVID hit. And so, as you know, after COVID, or during that time, I should say, in 2020, the 2021, the world was in lockdown, and Ho Chi Minh City and Vietnam went through a period where everything was closed for months and years at a time. So I think it was about a year and a half before we could actually get back to normal activity. So that was my experience in Vietnam. So during that COVID time, I did meet somebody, and we eventually married. And then by 2023, I decided that I wanted to go back to the U.S. And so by that time, my daughter was born, and we decided to move back to Fort Myers, Florida, where my parents live, and to rebuild our lives. And so we arrived in February of 2023, and a couple months later, I had to get a job. So I was lucky enough to work for a customs brokerage in Fort Myers, Florida here, and things have been going well. I've been enjoying every aspect of it, and I've been studying for my customs broker license exam at the same time. And so life has been good, and we're getting established here in Southwest Florida. So, in conclusion, did I become a failure after I got fired by trying entrepreneurship? In a way, yes, because I did not, in the end, establish and start the businesses that I had envisioned. I wanted to come away with one or two online businesses. So when I came back to America, I didn't want to work for another company. I wanted to have my own business. But having said that, I'm not giving up on entrepreneurship, and I have a vision of building a one-person $1 million importing business using with all of my Vietnam contacts. And so not too long ago, about December of 2024, I finally got a warehouse built on my parents' property. So that's going to be used to ship product in from overseas. And so as soon as I get enough capital, I'm going to start selling again back on e-commerce under my own brands. And that is the dream, and I'm slowly getting there. So that is what I'm working on now, and that is what has happened since my unfortunate experience 10 years ago getting fired at a Minnesota company. So right now, it's a work in progress, and I'll let you know how the journey goes. Thank you very much.